Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the latest edition of the 8 o'clock spot live here on the Gryd Network's YouTube channel and Twitter account. I am your host, /judge, /moderator, Bryson Carver. A little snafu for me in my first week back, man. I'm already rusty with a mute mic for a couple seconds there, but I'm ready to go. It's the 8 o'clock spot live on the Gryd Network. We got two fantastic panelists. First of all, it is Mike Guido, who is second right now on our Gryd Network leaderboard on the 8 o'clock spot. Barry has surpassed you, Mike, in the last few weeks. How are you feeling today?
Wow.
Especially after the Blake Snell thing last night. I saw your heartbreak live on Bicoastal Baseball. It was hard to watch.
Yeah. Well, listen, it was a tough go of it. I was really hoping I was pulling for Snell. But hey, listen, as a cheap plug, just because it's a new show, I'm going to do it every Monday at 8 o'clock Eastern, 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern. Myself and our buddy Dalton Brown, Bicoastal Baseball, the only exclusive baseball show on the Gryd Network. If you haven't caught it yet, make sure you tune in.
For sure. Definitely check it out every Monday. Y'all basically follow my show on Monday. So yeah, everybody definitely be sure to check that out for sure. Mike Guido here. What's that?
I said back to back, baby.
Absolutely. Back to back. Great content on the Gryd Network for Monday nights to start your week.
Sure
and
is.
Secondly is a fellow Red Sox fan, just like me, Tim Barnard, who it feels like an old song, but you are looking for your first win. Still, the 8 o'clock spot. Tim, is today your day?
Well, seeing as it's only me and Mike right now, hopefully this fellow Red Sox host will not give me the victory, but have me earn it right. But I understand, because if you want to build great content, you got to build rivalries. And even though we're Red Sox fans right now, it is a rivalry between me and Bryson. So, like Mike used to say when he wasn't on, and Barry said last week, free Tim, baby.
Free Tim. Free Tim. I'm competing tonight, and I'm saying free Tim.
Yeah. I don't even know if Mike's like half going at it. That's gonna be Mike's takes are gonna be really fascinating tonight, for sure. Well, let's look at our leaderboard real quick. If we're able to free Tim, let's look at where Mike stands as well. If we can pull up the leaderboard for the 8 o'clock spot. I'm sorry, that is actually an old leaderboard. We will get you caught up to date on that as soon as possible. Nonetheless, our first run rules will transition to that super fly fast. A great take gives you 200 points, and a good take gives you 100. An okay take gives you 50. A bad take, you come home empty-handed with 0 points. We will start with Justin Fields, who was just traded to my Pittsburgh Steelers over this weekend for a 6th-round pick that could turn into a 4th-round pick for Chicago, depending on if Justin plays about half the team's offensive stats or snaps. We'll see what happens in that regard if that pick continues, or that pick is able to move up. But I will start with you, Mike Guido. The Chicago Bears are the odds-on favorite at this point to draft Caleb Williams, #1 overall. They still do have another 1st-round pick. Did the Bears make the right move in trading in trading Justin Fields to my Pittsburgh Steelers?
Yeah, I think they did. I think if you have a chance to get a talent like Caleb Williams, I think you absolutely take it. And listen, as far as I'm concerned, when it comes to Justin Fields, his career certainly doesn't have to be over, right? And this as a Pittsburgh guy, it's, very reasonable that Russell Wilson could flop a little bit, and it wouldn't take much for Justin Fields to take over the reins over there. But here's the thing with the Bears. I do think that they made the right decision of trading Justin Fields. I don't think that they made the right decision of keeping Matt Eberflus. I think that could turn out to be a rougher situation than most people are giving it credit for. Now, Eberflus isn't a bad coach, but because here's the thing. The issue is that Justin Fields has improved himself pretty much every single year. If you look at his quarterback rating, his completion percentage, they've all progressively gotten better in his 3 years. So there still is some upside there. But now that you're going to be drafting Caleb Williams, I feel like you had an opportunity to have, with the league moving into an offensive direction, inserting an offensive coach to then kind of supplement that. So yeah, I think they made the right decision of trading Justin Fields. I just don't know that they got the situation exactly right.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly sounded like they could have gotten more for Justin Fields, and I think reports came out saying that the Bears were looking to, I guess, do right by Justin, because by and large he handled himself pretty well within the organization, considering the fact that they were considering drafting #1 if they were to get that pick via Carolina. And so from that perspective, like you give a lot of respect to Ryan Poles in the front office in Chicago, that if there was a slightly better offer, maybe, unless there was one that blew their socks off, the fact that they were looking to do right by the guy who played there for the last 3 years, while also saying, hey, we're going to move in the future with a significantly more talented guy with much higher upside and one of the great talents that many scouts have seen in the last decade or so. I think you definitely give props to the Chicago Bears in that regard. So a good take by Mike Guido, 100 points here to start the night for you. I think again, also what we forget is the fact that the salary cap sort of process has been basically reset. Now that you don't have to worry about paying Justin Fields. If Caleb Williams is amazing, you still have to pay him anything for 3 years. So from that perspective, from a financial perspective, the Bears are in good shape. I'll go to you now, Tim. Did the Chicago Bears make the right move in trading Justin Fields to my Pittsburgh Steelers?
Well, I'm solely off the Caleb Williams train. I've been off his train for a very long time. And literally, I'm not trying to sit here and deny the talent that the guy has. The problem that I see with Caleb Williams, and I've said on this show time and time again, is the fact that he has a messed up head. You know, when you have USC go into their bowl game, just absolutely dominate with the backup who throws for 6 touchdowns, and the whole team is chanting afterwards that, or we a team now. I mean, if Caleb Williams isn't there and the team is chanting we a team, I mean, I feel like that kind of says a lot, on top of course, his, crying in his mother's arms, doing all that type of stuff. And it's not so much the crying as it was just the downright sobbing after a loss, like his team isn't good enough, all this type of stuff. But also, too, I like Justin Fields. I think with him getting drafted, with Matt Nagy, Matt Nagy being his last year, he's, then getting fired, going to Matt Eberflus. And I feel like there's just been all this stuff going on. And last season was the first season where he had DJ Moore, right? And this is a primetime pick where, you know what? The Bears could trade out of it. They have a young quarterback where they could sit there and continue to build pieces around him. Now, listen, Justin Fields was, up and down, like 100%. I'm not saying that he's going to go out there and start winning Super Bowls for the Bears. But at the same time, you have a very deep draft class. Minnesota, well, you're not going to trade with Minnesota, let's be honest, it's Chicago. But, you could fall back and recoup a million other picks for the number 1 overall. You don't have to sit there and take a quarterback when you have a young kid entering his 4th
10
year
seconds, Tim.
with the Bears. So you still have 2 years to figure it out with him. I don't know. I feel like they kind of jumped the gun, and they did right by him, but it was just I don't like Caleb Williams.
Well, listen, I think the criticism in regards to the bowl game, it's not I don't think you can argue it's a good look for Caleb Williams, especially in a lot of ways. You can go back and look at the fact that virtually every quarterback, basically outside of Spencer Rattler, works with Lincoln Riley. Like they all, Baker Mayfield, Kyler Murray, Jalen Hurts. And so you look at it from that perspective, you say, okay, does that factor in? I'm not as bothered by the crying as, like, I've always, maybe this is just the soft side of me, but I've always been athletes who cry. I'm like, I'd much rather take that guy than a Ben Simmons or Jay Cutler, who I don't even know if he really cares that much about winning. I'll take the guy who's, I don't want to say is too over emotional. You can make me argue that case, maybe going to his mother in the stands, but I'd rather take the guy who's maybe too emotional than not there enough, because I feel like I can rein back the guy.
I'm sorry to cut you off. It's one thing to like cry and be emotional. It's another thing to do exactly what he did, run into his mother's arms, talking about how he wants to just go home, sit on the couch and watch his stories. I mean, it wasn't just the crying. It was everything about it. And the quarterback is such a mental position that, that's why I put a little checkbox next to, I don't know about that.
That's fair. No, that's totally fair. And I'm giving you a good take for the segment, by the way. 100 points for Tim Barnard to time with Mike Guido. Yeah, I think, what's funny is I like that both of y'all came from opposite sides of this, because I actually agree with both of you for different reasons. I think both teams won this trade. I think the Pittsburgh Steelers get a guy with high upside who, if Russell Wilson doesn't pan out, okay, you're paying Russell Wilson $1.2 million. You can move to a guy with higher upside, far higher upside than Kenny Pickett shipped his butt to Philadelphia. Good riddance. And then you consider, a guy in Caleb Williams, who again has the upside that is higher than that of Justin Fields. By the way, sneaky story. Chicago's building a pretty darn good football team. They just traded for Keenan Allen. They just added DeAndre Swift. They have I believe the 10th overall pick in the draft. This could be a team that in a weak NFC could vie for a playoff spot. I don't think they're as good as Detroit. Right now, I think Detroit by far is the best roster in that division, but that Green Bay Chicago thing could go back and forth and definitely could be a story this season. Patrick Brown, our guy Patrick Brown in the comments. Happy Tuesday, fellas. Happy Tuesday to you, Patrick Brown. Writes some great networks for the Gryd. Moving on to our second round rules. Everything gets doubled. A great take gives you 400 points. A good take gives you 200. An okay take gives you 100. And a bad take, you come empty-handed with 0 points. We will transition now into the NBA with a LeBron James who is joining us, not joining us at the Gryd, but joining us in the content creation space in the podcasting realm. He is going to be with JJ Redick, with Under Uninterrupted. JJ Redick obviously is the old man in the sea. He's on ESPN. LeBron James now joining the podcast space. They just released their first episode today. I have yet to listen to it yet. I have seen some clips with LeBron talking about Allen Iverson, Steph Curry being as influential as they were. I'm very curious to hear y'all's takes, though. I will start with you, though, Tim. Do you think this podcast will be, it's hard to judge success, like based on how many people listen to it, whatnot, but do you think this will be a good podcast? I think is the best way to put it.
Well, that's the thing. Is it going to be a good podcast or will it be a successful podcast? And I think it's going to be successful because you have LeBron James on it. It's going to be like his barbershop there that he did for a few years on HBO. But is it going to be good? I mean, I don't know. One of the viral clips that, I tweeted out on my Boston Sports Summit Twitter account talked about Jason Tatum and how LeBron went on saying that Jason Tatum's been to 4 Eastern Conference Finals, 1 NBA Finals, and I have it right here. He goes, it's elite, and talks about, is it too much pressure for him? And I'm sitting there going, the dude wants to be the face of the league. He has been to 4 Eastern Conference Finals and 1 NBA Finals. Why are we sitting here trying to peel back the pressure we try to put on athletes who want $300 million, who want to be the face of the league, who are supposed to go out and win championships when you're being paid that much money and you're doing all these things? Trust me, it's elite for Jason to win all that much before the age of 26. Like, I get it. But between LeBron trying to speak softly for the current players, JJ Redick having a bias for the current NBA players, as we've seen with his takes on Larry Bird, seeing his takes on, all the past, which I completely disagree with JJ on. It's stuff like that kind of makes me want to lean towards it's not going to be good because they're just going to be so soft on current players and not respect the past game. But again, I have no idea what this show is going to be about. Is it strictly NBA? Is it everything?
10 seconds, Tim.
That's kind of where I stand with it. I don't know if it's going to be good, but I'm not saying it's going to be bad either.
Yeah, I think that's, and again, I think the mystery for all of us is we've never really seen LeBron in this type of role. Like we've seen Draymond Green go into this. We've seen our friend and colleague Barry Grant Jr. Of the Gryd Network, co-founder, has railed against current players doing podcasts. But listen, LeBron James is in year 21. He is in the final stages of his career. I think if there's anybody qualified to do a current player podcast, it is the King. And so I think, to me, what I'm looking forward to is not necessarily just the breakdown, because let's be real, we see that from everybody. Heck, we do it. Breaking down players and the games, their legacies, blah, blah, blah. I'm curious more than anything to see LeBron breaking down the games from his elite basketball IQ standpoint. Kobe Bryant was very good with that on the Detail series and ESPN Plus all those years ago. So I'm very curious to see if that's the way LeBron comes at it. But I'm gonna give you a great take, Tim, because I like the way you sort of talked about the point that we're being easy on Jason Tatum. It's like, well, if he's going to command the kind of salary he's going to command, then I think the requisite criticism is going to have to come hand in hand with that. And that's the case with any athlete in any sport. So I think that's a great point, and that's why I gave you a great take. So I'll move to Mike Guido now. Do you think this LeBron James, JJ Redick podcast will be good?
Yeah, I think it'll be fine. I mean, I think people will definitely tune in. I think it'll probably be very entertaining for people that want to learn about basketball, right? Like that seems to be everything that I've read. It sort of seems to be like that's really the goal of the podcast. It's to break down basketball in ways that other people can't. And that's really, I think, like, honestly, I think it plays more into like basketball culture and the toxicity of that. Like, it's very vintage LeBron to have a podcast that is like this, because the way that I see it is, it'll be almost like LeBron is explaining why he's the GOAT in his own podcast indirectly. Like, just being able to break down the game in a way that he can, right? This is why I made this play. This is why players do this. This is why, like, and it's going to be that analytical, because again, that's kind of what I think that this is going to end up being. And I know that JJ Redick has a lot of, I guess, explosive opinions when it comes to past basketball players, but at the same time, he's a pretty smart basketball guy. He's been around the league a long time. I think these guys are going to have a pretty cool dynamic. And as far as, I'm kind of disappointed that Barry Grant Jr. isn't here to pitch in on this segment, because I know how much he hates players with podcasts, and he's a Laker fan. So he doubles down on, he kind of double downs on this segment. But, because I know that there are going to be some people that say, oh, well, players having podcasts, it kind of affects their play. Well, if you're 39 years old and you're averaging 25, 7, and 8, then I'm going to kind of say, all right, I'll wait and see
10 seconds, Mike.
If he plummets down. But yeah, I think the podcast will be fine, and it's very vintage LeBron to have a podcast like this.
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting way to look at it, that this could be an opportunity to, again, just kind of show off his basketball IQ, because that's, again, everybody that has played against LeBron. Like, one of my favorite LeBron stories is when DeMar DeRozan talked about how him and Kyle Lowry were like in a huddle, like during that 2018 playoff series with the Raptors when they were playing the Cavs, and they were breaking out of the play, and LeBron walked over them, told them what play they were running. It's just like, oh shoot, this guy's 5 steps ahead of us. So like, I think sort of getting that side of him, I agree, is definitely gonna be fun to see. And again, the dynamic with Redick, I think could work. Mike Guido, I'm going to give you a great take as well, get you to 500 points, tie you with Tim Barnard. Yeah, again, I am fascinated to, again, get sort of the in-game breakdown from LeBron, especially as we get closer towards the playoffs. Maybe you'll have some controversial, like, last 2 minutes, like, and seeing a guy of his caliber break that down, I think could be fun. And listen, we don't know what the future holds for LeBron, like post-career, if he wants to go into this sort of lane. He wants to go in a lot of lanes, but if this is going to be one of them in sort of like an analyst role, if this is the closest thing we get to that, I think many people will certainly tune in to listen. Let's move on to our third round rules. Everything gets doubled from the second round. A great take gives you 800 points. A good take gives you 400 points. An okay take gives you 200. And a bad take, you come home empty-handed with 0 points. So March Madness, the brackets are being filled as we sit here today. The UConn Huskies, back-to-back national champions, the #1 overall seed in all of college basketball, followed by Houston, Purdue, and the Tar Heels of North Carolina. Should be a fun tournament, no question about it. A lot of upset predictions already are coming around the board. So I will ask you first on this segment, Mike Guido, who is your Final Four and who wins the national championship?
Well, they're not back-to-back yet. They could go back-to-back if they win it.
Yes. My bad. Yeah.
Right now, and you're going to like this, Bryson, because, and just trust me, you're going to, you're not going to like it towards the end, but you are going to like it in the beginning. UConn definitely in. I do think a team to look out for in UConn's bracket is Drake. I do think that Drake has a very interesting roster. Tucker DeVries is one of the best scorers in the country. They just took down Indiana State for their conference title. I think that could be a really interesting matchup if you're looking for a later seed to kind of catapult up towards the Elite Eight Final Four. So UConn, North Carolina. I love Kentucky this year. I think Kentucky is very, very, very good. And Tennessee, I think, is a clear favorite to win their bracket. I don't really have much faith in Purdue. Here's the thing. As far as where UConn stands, right? Tristan Newton has just been absolutely phenomenal. He's the school leader in triple doubles. Donovan Clingan is one of the best defensive players in the country. When it comes to Kentucky, this is why I really love them, right? I have UConn and Kentucky in the national championship, and then UConn eventually winning it. But I do think that Kentucky, they can go on runs. They're such a special offensive team. I think they may have the best backcourt in the entire in all of college basketball with Rob Dillingham and Reed Shepherd. They really shoot the lights out of the building. UNC is kind of like that veteran team with Armando Bacot. they may have been the biggest beneficiaries of the transfer portal with Harrison Ingram and Cormac Ryan from Notre Dame. So it's going to be a very interesting tournament. But yeah, I like UConn over Kentucky in the national championship. You know, I like I said, I love Tennessee. I think Dalton Knecht might be, you know, the best player in the country to take over games and everything like that. He's really special, but I think UConn is just simply, they're just too good. I think that they're more than likely going to repeat.
Yeah, I actually agree with you. I do think UConn's going to win it all this year. I think when you consider, I do think my Vols did get a pretty favorable draw given where we were in the bracket. I do not buy Purdue in the slightest. I don't really buy Zach Edey that much, to be completely honest with you. You know, as a long-term guy. But yeah, listen, my concern for Tennessee, I think you're actually higher in my Vols than I am, ironically. My concern for Tennessee is this is not one of the great Rick Barnes defensive teams of old. Dalton Knecht is, listen, trust me, I've seen the kid. Yeah. He is a scoring extraordinaire. The problem is they can't. I struggle to see if they can get stops down the stretch of games. We'll see if that's able to, you know, if they're able to overcome that or turn it up defensively as time goes on. So a good take for Mike Guido, give him to 900 points here. Yeah, I think like I'm kind of with you on Kentucky. I think, listen, Calipari has had some tournament woes in the last half decade or so, but if people forget, this is the first time Kentucky's been fully healthy all season long, and they're playing their best basketball at the right time. So listen, oftentimes it isn't necessarily about where you're seating, it's about how you're playing. And I think Kentucky's a prime example of that.
Yeah, I don't want to interrupt you too much, Bryson, but Kentucky, like, if you do not want to fall behind against Kentucky, because they can run away with a game if you fall behind on them. So they can beat good teams in this country by 20.
Completely agree. 100%. Yeah, and I don't really look into much in into their Texas A&M loss in the SEC tournament. I don't put too much stock in that. There's a lot. I mean, there's a lot of upsets in this past weekend, so we just kind of disregard them all. To you now, Tim Barnard, who is your Final Four in March Madness, and who comes away with the national title?
So, in full transparency, did I even say that right? Transparency. My God, I can't even talk today. I don't follow a lot of college basketball. I pretty much follow my teams, which are the UVM Catamounts, which are practically always in the tournament every single year, except they always get bounced in the first round. But also my only Florida Gators. They went on a run for the SEC championship, and if it wasn't for their guy breaking their leg, one of their big men breaking their leg, you know, they could have had a chance against Auburn. And so my thing is, I got UConn because reigning national champs. You know, follow them a little bit, not a lot, but then I am going to go with my Gators for the upset of the bracket in the Final Four. That's right. But, Bryson, don't get too mad at me because we're going to be squaring off in the Final Four. Tennessee, Florida, because I'm with you. Purdue is always overhyped every single time they're in the tournament. They're always good for big men every single year, but they always blow it every single year. So I got, you know, Florida, UConn, Tennessee, and then in the other bracket, you know, I'm going to play it safe. Going to take North Carolina. I think really if we're going to talk about the national championship game, I think that's what it's going to be right there is going to be UConn, North Carolina. Not in terms, they're going to be playing each other in the Final Four. But, and then in the national championship, I'm sorry. I got to go Gators, baby. Come on. I know exactly what's about to happen, but I don't care, baby. I don't care. Go Gators.
Yeah. Okay. Take for Tim. That was you were actually doing pretty well, Tim. Florida in the national championship game, Tim. Florida in the national championship game.
Their run, their run in the SEC to the SEC championship was pretty damn impressive.
It was very impressive. But you just mentioned they just lost one of their best players to a broken leg.
I know. I don't care.
Okay. See,
free Tim.
I'm glad the audience is getting to get a perfect representation of Tim's bias towards Florida, and even Mike's higher on Tennessee than I am. Okay, I just want to let everybody know that. This is. I cannot wait for Florida to get bounced in round one. They won't.
They'll win round one. They'll win round one. They will.
We'll see. I may pick
I
the
will
Big
say,
Six.
just to expand on this conversation, just because I love March Madness, and I'm sure there are a lot of people that do also.
It's fun.
One team that I am very, very, very worried about in the NCAA tournament is the Houston Cougars. Houston, with Juwan Roberts suffering the injury, right? Mm-hmm. This is a team that got blown out in the Big 12 championship game. They got Iowa State blew them out, right? Coming off a loss, they're a very good basketball team, and especially defensively. But if they lose their anchor in the middle of that defense, that's really going to be a problem for them. Really,
no question. I'll say, and this may not sound like a sleeper, but relative to how successful they are, watch out for Kansas. I'm just saying. I know they're 4C. I get that, but watch out for Kansas in the tournament as well.
Kevin McCormick is missing the tournament. Kevin McCormick's out. Kevin McCormick is out for the tournament.
Okay. Well, there you go. That's major. By the way, women's bracket, Caitlin Clark's winning at all Iowa. Moving on to the fourth round of the 8 o'clock spot. Everything gets doubled from the third round. A great take gives you 1,600 points. A good take gives you 800 points. An okay take gives you 400. And a bad take, you come home empty-handed with 0 points. One of the greatest players of all time in the history of the National Football League called it quits on Friday. And arguably, as according to some reports, maybe even earlier than that, Aaron Donald retired after 10 legendary seasons with the Los Angeles Rams. He was drafted back when they're the St. Louis Rams out of Pittsburgh, first round 2014. All he did was go on to make the Pro Bowl, every single season of his career, 8 first-team All-Pros, 3 Defensive Player of the Years, and by the way, I'm going to die, and I'm going to go to my grave believing this, should have won Super Bowl MVP 3 years ago when the Bengals fell short to the Rams. As great as my twin Cooper Kupp was, Aaron Donald single-handedly in the second half took that game over. Just remarkable career, remarkable resume. I will start with you on this segment, Tim. Where does Aaron Donald rank amongst the greatest defensive players to ever play the game?
So he's top 10. He's top 10 to ever play the game. And don't forget the Super Bowl against the Pats where he was nothing. He no-showed. So, well, I shouldn't say no-show, but he wasn't as disruptive as he was against the Bengals. I'll say that much. And but I have built this out, and really thought hard about it because I'm trying to figure out throughout history, because one of the things that kind of pisses me off a lot, especially recently, is this greatest of all time recency bias. Every single person who retires is the greatest of all time at their position, this, that, or the other. It's really starting to irritate me, especially for somebody like myself who studied the history of all 4 sports, who knows the history of all 4 sports, and for the most part knows a lot of the players. And granted, obviously I wasn't alive for most of them, but that doesn't mean I haven't watched tape. That doesn't mean I haven't watched film. And so when I look at it, I have LT, Reggie White, Mean Joe Green, Deion Sanders, Deacon Jones. Deacon Jones is on there because, let's face it, he was unbelievable with the Rams, but he also invented the term sack. That's where we get it from. So in case for all you guys out there who had no idea where the term sack came from, there it is. Ronnie Lott was a hell of a DB. Ed Reed, Tom Brady always praises Ed Reed. How can he not be in the top 10? And then I got Aaron Donald, Dick Butkus, Ray Lewis and Dick Butkus in Aaron Donald, kind of that final tier.
I like that. I like that you gave us a full top 10 there. So let's see. Could you read that one more time up to Aaron Donald? Because I think you had him 8th, right?
Yes, 8th. So I got LT, Reggie White, Deion Sanders, Mean Joe Green, Deacon Jones, Ronnie Lott, Ed Reed, Aaron Donald.
Okay. All right. I don't hate that list at all. I think it's, listen, I think I'm glad you mentioned Ed Reed, because even as a Steelers fan, Ed Reed was an absolute game changer in every sense of the word.
Tom Brady talks about him all the time.
I'm surprised you have Ed Reed over Ray Lewis, though. I think Ray Lewis was about as close to a quarterback on defense as we've ever seen in the history game, and nonetheless, both were outstanding in their own rights and certainly are deserving of their gold jackets. You have anything else to say, Tim?
Yeah, just that again. I want to. The reason why, one of the reasons, it's not a big reason, but one of them is because I am done with the recency bias of greatest of all time. So that is not a major reason, because when looking at all the careers that have gone on, there's a lot of great ones, and he's definitely deserving of top 10, no doubt about it.
For sure. And no doubt a first ballot Hall of Famer. To you, Mike Guido, where does Aaron Donald rank amongst the greatest NFL defensive players to ever play the game following his retirement?
Fifth. I think he's fifth. And here's the thing. I completely am on the same side of Tim. To the point where, like, there are way too many times where we say, because there was a point, like when Tony Parker retired for the San Antonio Spurs, you had people saying, "Oh, he's a top 5 point guard ever." No, he's not. Like, he's just not. So,
most overrated player ever, by the way. Go ahead.
One of the, probably a great player, but definitely not among that tier. I would say Donald ranks fifth. Listen, he is probably the best defensive tackle who ever lived. Right? Obviously he's got more sacks than anybody, than any defensive tackle ever. He's got more quarterback pressures than any defensive tackle ever. He's got 260 of those. He made the Pro Bowl all 10 years of his career. He's a 3-time defensive player of the year. That ties all time with Watt and LT. So here's the thing. I think that as far as history is concerned, right, the 4 guys that would rank ahead of Aaron Donald are Reggie White. I think the first 3 separated themselves completely. Reggie White, Lawrence Taylor, Deion Sanders, I think, are very clearly the best 3 defensive players ever. Ray Lewis is the other guy that I would rank ahead of him. I agree with you, Bryson. I think that he is as close to a quarterback on defense as we've ever seen. He's one of the best clubhouse leaders that I've ever seen. Deion Sanders took away parts of the field. I think Reggie White, as far as longevity was concerned, I mean, the guy won Defensive Player of the Year at 37 years old. He was just so, he's probably the most dominant defensive player ever. So, but I do think Aaron Donald is in that class. He was able to break games and was physically more dominant, even as an undersized kind of player, physically more dominant than almost everybody on the field. So I'd rank him fifth right now.
That's fair. Real quick, you'll appreciate this, Mike. I'm not sure if Tim will. Where did Reggie White play college football?
Oh.
Where'd he play? Y'all don't know?
Wait, no, you asked Mike.
I'm asking both of you.
Where did he play, Bryson? I was waiting. Yeah.
One of the worst cities in America.
I was waiting for. I wasn't gonna give you that moment of just like, oh, he played for 10. Like,
I mean, like he well, of course. Fun fact: Derek Barnett, who's in the NFL right now, actually broke Reggie White's sack record in less years. So, like, just fun fact of a little Tennessee sack history there for you. But no, one thing I think is fascinating. I compared Lawrence Taylor and Aaron Donald yesterday on my show, and I agree with both of you. I think LT is well. Did you have Reggie White first, Mike?
Yeah, I think Reggie White as just, again, I think he was just more dominant for longer than LT was. You know what I mean? He was just so good even late in his career. I mean, Lawrence Taylor pretty much invented 2 tight end sets. Like, that pretty much is what, like, coaches needed to come up with more ways to get people in front of Lawrence Taylor to block him. But I just think overall dominance throughout his career, I think Reggie White probably has him beat.
To me, that the amazing thing about Lawrence Taylor is that, and you'll appreciate this, Tim, is that Belichick swore by Lawrence Taylor more so than he did Brady. I think if you ask Bill Belichick privately, maybe even publicly, like, who's the best football player ever, he'd say Lawrence Taylor. Not even over time, obviously.
Before Brady retired, even when Brady was in Tampa, Belichick would always talk about how great LT was and would never give. And he gave Brady credit, but would never compare Brady to LT until after Brady retired.
Yeah.
That's maybe that was the
Belichick's a defensive guy though too. I mean, he has a real appreciation for defense as well. So
yeah.
No question. And he coached him with the Giants for years. But I compare the resume, and I think Lawrence Taylor is the greatest defensive player ever. I think the fact that he won league MVP is just absurd for defense. But that will probably never be done again, at least in the modern era. But I compare the two. So Lawrence Taylor has 132.5 sacks. Aaron Donald 111. But keep in mind, still, Aaron Donald, defensive tackle. Lawrence Taylor, edge rusher. They had made the same amount of Pro Bowls, 10. Same amount of first team All Pros, 8. Same amount of Defensive Player of the Year awards, 3. Now, again, LT got the MVP and 2 Super Bowls. Again, again, we don't really judge defensive players that much by Super Bowl. Certainly not to the level you do quarterbacks or coaches. But I found that interesting. Like, I have him third all time. I have him just by inches, not feet, over Reggie White. I have LT.
Wow.
I have LT number 1. I have primetime number 2, Deion Sanders number 2, and I have Aaron Donald number 3. I think when his down year, just think about this. This was a down year for him last year, and he was first team All-Pro. Like, I think when you put all those things in consideration, I think he will go down, then we'll move on. I think he will go down in history as a bit of a, like a Barry Sanders type career where like he may have left some meat on the bone, but he retired at the peak of his powers. By the way, I did not give you all of your point totals, and that is on me as the host / judge / moderator. Tim, I gave you a good take to get you to 1,500. I gave you as well a good take, Mike Guido, to get you to 1,700. So we're neck and neck here going into the final round. Normally it is the top 2 point getters, but there are only 2 guys. We're not going to eliminate one and have a presumptive champion going into the final round. That'd be very anticlimactic and would not be fun for the 8 o'clock spot. And that's what we're here to do, is we're here to have fun and break down sports. Final round is this simple, folks. 10,000 points to the winner. 0 points of a loser. It's a great equalizer in this 8 o'clock spot tournament and an opportunity for some of the people trailing the leaders to get back into this tournament. Let's move to Anthony Edwards, who quite simply had I don't think that's debatable, the dunk of the season. We'll argue about, where it was all time, but here's the video. Anthony Edwards last night against the Utah Jazz on John Collins.
Not attempt in that first half. Another turnover for Utah. Edwards gets it back and threw it down and one.
John Collins was actually went to concussion protocol after that, by the way. So like, that's just like, a man put a guy in the locker room hurt himself, by the way, hurt his finger on the dunk. Anthony Edwards, we've heard some of the comparisons. I think the Jordan stuff, let's not go too far. He's not Michael, just because there's some, resemblance in his game, heck, and even his facial features to Michael Jordan. Like, he's not an MJ. Let's slow down. That said, I will ask you first and foremost, Mike Guido, was that the greatest dunk of all time?
So this is going to be my greatest take of all time. I'm just letting you know. No, it is not the best dunk of all time. I still think that the best in-game dunk of all time was when Dr. J rocked the baby in '83. Like, that, I think, was that was ridiculous. That just because it wasn't even just the dunk; it was the gather that made it so great. That's the first thing. Here's the second thing. I also think that it's not the best dunk ever because Blake Griffin did a very similar thing on Timofey Mozgov in 2010. That's also another thing. Here's the other thing. Anthony Edwards did not dunk the basketball. It was a layup. Okay? It was a layup. Here's the thing. Anthony Edwards threw the ball into the basket. Not once did he come in contact with the rim. He did not push the ball down into the basket. He threw it into the basket. We've seen tall NBA players, right? 7-footers, big men, have their hand above the rim and just lightly tap it in, or lightly lay it into the basket, right? We've seen Jokic do it. We've seen Gobert do it. Do those count as dunks? No, they're layups. Just because this one was a little bit more aggressive doesn't make it a dunk. So I will die on the hill saying that not only is Anthony Edwards' dunk not the best dunk ever, it's not a dunk. It's a layup.
Wow. That's something. By the way, the Dr. J dunk, I do agree with that. Of course, I think that's the best NBA dunk. I think Vince Carter in the Olympics is the greatest dunk ever.
I mean, that
I know.
So
yeah.
iconic.
Yeah, no, it is. And Dr. J, like that's one of his greatest plays. I think the greatest in-game dunk, we'll move to Tim, is the Vince Carter dunk in the Olympics. I think that was just nasty. And Vince Carter is, I think we'd all agree here, the greatest in-game dunker of all time. To you, Tim, greatest dunk of all time or no? Is it, by the way, is it a dunk?
Well, damn you, Mike, because that was my effing take. That was not a dunk. That was not a dunk. Are you effing kidding me? How the hell did you go with that?
Let's see what you do with the take. Let's see if you make the better case, Tim.
Well, no, I can sit here and I agree. I was like, ready, rock the cradle, like, let's go. And then I even had Vince Carter posterizing Alonzo Mourning in 2005 when Carter was with the Nets. And so that's where I was kind of, and you want to talk about even dunks. How about Aaron Gordon against the Celtics 2 weeks ago in Denver? The alley-oop that he got from Jokic was to pretty much end the game.
Yep.
It was wild. So I agree. It wasn't a dunk because at the end of the day, you have to put the ball through the net. Your hands have to hit the rim. As soon as I saw that still image of the ball here, the rim here, and his hand here, I'm like, that's not a dunk. Like, I'm sorry. He threw the ball. I wouldn't so much to say that it's a layup, but I would say he threw the friggin' ball. Almost like he could have thrown it from his own end there. I was just like, again, that to me was absolutely not a dunk by any stretch of the imagination. And was it a great moment? Sure. I think it also goes to show that he put the guy in concussion protocol. I wonder if that was I couldn't tell if it was concussion protocol because he's truly concussed or he's just super embarrassed about what the hell happened to him. And so he's like, hey, doc, something's not right upstairs here. Can we just go? Can I be out for the next couple weeks here? So that was absolutely not a dunk.
Okay, well, and then I'll announce the winner. Can we agree he was posterized?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, see, that's different to me. Yeah,
yes.
That's
definitely.
Oh, if you want to talk about posterizing, Vince Carter Alonzo Mourning, I brought that up. So
that was the meanest poster I've seen since when Carmelo Anthony posterized Paul Millsap. That was, when he did the "I'm back," like, oh my God, it was me.
You remember Aaron Gordon on Christmas a couple of years ago? I think it was against the Dolphins no, it might have been Phoenix. They were playing. It was a late Christmas Day game, so everybody on the East Coast was asleep. But he absolutely hammered. And by the way, Aaron Gordon should have 2 dunk contest championships. He was better than Zach LaVine. He was better than whoever the guy that won it in 2020 was. Okay, both of y'all agreed. Both of y'all made great takes. If this was like the regular format of the 8 o'clock spot, I'd give both y'all great takes right now. But there can be only one champion, the 8 o'clock spot, and the winner, the 8 o'clock spot, as we dial up the victory music. Tim Barnard breaks through and gets the first 8 o'clock spot championship on Gryd Network. What's the celebration? Bring it in. Come on. There it is. Like Steve Young, the monkey is off your back, Tim. How you feeling?
I'm feeling great. I feel great, but I'm sorry. That might have been a little bit given. Because I'm sorry, Bryson. You're a great host. Maybe you were a little off with some of your words tonight. Maybe you muted yourself. I don't know, but I am definitely thankful for finally getting a 10K. But I'm a little like, okay, I can't wait till I go against Mike and Barry. That would be a fun one.
This is like his bubble championship. This is like his Mickey Mouse title. Is that how it feels to him? It's a Mickey Mouse championship.
The fact that we both agreed that was not a dunk in the first place.
I'll be honest. Okay. I thought me coming in with that was gonna, like, Bryson was gonna say, like, it doesn't matter what Tim says, you lose. Like, it was gonna be like, oh my God.
Can I tell you what the deciding factor was, Mike?
What?
Tim and I agree. It wasn't a layup. That wasn't no dang layup. Stop it. That was not a freak. It was not. Not just going up and laying it off the glass. Come on now. That didn't want no layup.
Hold on a minute. I know that layup, for a play like that, layup almost sounds like it's derogatory. I understand that.
It is derogatory.
However, what else is it then? If it's not a dunk, if
he's not it.
Yeah. So what are you going to invent a new shot? You're going to throw a shot?
I'm just saying, it's a poster. Like, again, we all agree that he put him on a poster, and that will be shown for years to come.
It's a layup. It's a layup. If you wrote it in the box score, it's a layup. Unless you thought it was a dunk. If it was a dunk, you wrote it as a dunk. If it wasn't a dunk, you'd be forced to say it's a layup because it's not a jump shot. That's a throwdown, EJ.
That's a throwdown. That's you know what? That's a good way to put it. By the way, EJ, I want to. This is way too late for me to say this, but EJ Savage hosted the 8 o'clock spot last week. Did a fantastic job. So shout out to him. And he's very excited to to see you win the show, Tim. I think everybody at the Gryd Network is, and I got to admit, to a certain degree, monkey's off my back because there's so many times like I wanted you to win. But I was like, God,
you could have made it happen, Bryson.
Especially me picking Florida and saying, doing the Gator Chomp as many times as I have tonight.
I can take the win off if you do that one more time.
Oh, wow. Do it again. Do it again.
I'm fickle. I'm fickle. By the way, Barry says layup. See, have Barry on the show. You still.
Oh, if he was on the show tonight, all three of us would have said that it was a layup. I thought I was coming in hot with that one. Honestly,
so Tim wins and Mike's heart's broken. That just makes it a double W there for you Tim Barnard. There you go. You can wear this. You can get. I don't know if you have a championship belt anywhere, but you can wear it on Boston Sports Summit tomorrow night at 7 p.m. Eastern. By the way, y'all check it out tomorrow. But Tim Barnard, the champion of the 8 o'clock spot. The monkey is off his back. He has finally broken through. And hey, we'll see if he comes back in next week to defend his crown. We'll see if he gets complacent in defending his crown. We'll see what happens in that regard. But nonetheless, that was a fantastic show, y'all. Happy episode 30, by the way. We're 30 episodes in to the 8 o'clock spot. We will see y'all next week. Be sure to stay tuned again for all of our Gryd Network content. Again, my show tomorrow, every Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 6 Eastern, 3 Pacific, carving it up. Boston Sports Summit, Tim Barnard, the champion of the 8 o'clock spot, tomorrow, every Wednesday night at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific time on the Gryd. And Mike Guido and Dalton Brown host Bicoastal Baseball, the brand new baseball podcast, every Monday night at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific time. And of course, check out the 8 o'clock spot every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern at 5 p.m. Pacific time, live on the Gryd Network's YouTube channel and Twitter account. Fellas, great stuff. Congratulations to Tim Barnard, the champion of the 8 o'clock spot, despite the stupid Gator Chomp. We're free Tim. Yeah, thank God you're a Red Sox fan. He is free. We can ditch that hashtag now. Free Tim. That is now. We can need to say free AJ, by the way, because AJ's been on a few times and still hasn't broken through. Free AJ. Shout out to the Cowboys camp fam. We'll see y'all next week. Have a fantastic week, y'all. Great 8 o'clock spot. Congratulations, Tim. Stay safe out there. God bless y'all. Peace out.